So last lecture we had started with actual syllabus of corporate funding, in which we had picked up the ICDR regulation. We first of all understood that what is the applicability of ICDR, correct? So ICDR is again applicable in the different types of issues, whether it's an IPO or it's a right issue again by the listed issuer, or it's a further public offer by a listed issuer, or it's a preferential issue, it's a qualified institutional placement, or it's a IPO or a right issue of IDR, then issue by small and medium enterprise, that's the right initial public offer, then listing of innovators growth platform through an issue or without an issue. Now, what do you mean by this, through an issue, without an issue? So basically, privately placed instruments can also be given to these investors, qualified investors, and the securities may or may not get, you know, it can be a public issue, it may not be a public issue. So, innovators growth platform. So, if it is not a public issue, then again the takeover regulations also do not get triggered. But if you are listed on innovators growth platform through the public issue, then the takeover regulations also come into picture, and then you have the bonus issue. इसके बाद हम लोगों ने इन सारे टर्म्स को समझा था, व्हाट इज आईपीओ, व्हाट इज अ राइट इशू, व्हाट इज फर्दर इशू। हमने एक एक टर्म को यहाँ पे इसमें डिटेल में समझा था। वी हैड लर्न दैट आईपीओ कैन बी बाय वे ऑफ फ्रेश इशू और इट कैन बी बाय वे ऑफ अ OFS. And in case of OFS, what happens? Basically, the company do not get the money. The money is received by the selling shareholder, and the expenses which are incurred by the company for the public issue is compensated by this selling shareholder. I'll tell you, जितने भी गवर्नमेंट कंपनीज के डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट्स होते हैं ना, वो यही होता है। द सेलिंग शेयर होल्डर इज द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, ओके। एंड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया यहाँ पर सेलिंग शेयर होल्डर होता है, एंड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया गेट्स द money, okay. Company do not get any money, disinvestments, right? So the shares are diluted. So mostly you will see, if you will read up, if you pick up the draft red herring prospectus, or let's say the final prospectus, if you are going to pick up there, in case of disinvestments, right, all the selling shareholders is the government of India, and they get the money. So government is actually selling the stake, so that is there in OFS. Now why do we have a distinction between fresh issue and OFS? Because the rules and regulations will be different here. Further, we understood right issue, right, and in right issue we also understood the concept of book closure and the record date. Then we covered further public issue, then preferential issue, then we covered qualified institutional placement, in which we also understood that it is the shares which are issued to the qualified institutional buyers, and these are being issued to them on a private placement basis, or it can be a OFS. So basically, in case of QIP, it is not a public issue, it is just privately placed. No, it's a private placement of the securities. Now this private placement can be, okay. Vinisha, I think you need to mute. So private placement, and in the private placement, it can be, let's say, a fresh issue, or in the private placement, it can be a OFS. So this is there. Then we discussed who are the qualified institutional buyers. This is an important definition, by the way. And then we covered IDR. IDR is not defined in ICDR. It was there in the Companies Act. We covered this. And then small and medium enterprise. So SME exchange, we realized that in the stock exchange there are two boards. One is the main board, another is the SME exchange. And the SME platform is where certain companies will come there. Not all the companies are allowed, but only certain companies are allowed to list their securities on the SME platform. Thereafter, they can move from the SME platform to the main board, or vice versa. this can happen, right? And then innovators growth platform we had not covered, and bonus issue also we had not covered. We said that we'll do it later. Then we started with what is there in the initial public offer on the main board, and here we covered the eligibility requirements. Correct, the part 1 deals with the eligibility requirements. So basically we were covering this only, and in between we no, the 2 hours time period was over, so we had left after covering regulation 6. But today we will cover from part 1. This we are going to pack up. We are also going to pack up part 3, and we are also going to pack up part 4. So don't worry, this is not that it's a very lengthy process. It's a very simple one. Promoter contribution lock-in period. But again, exam perspective, very very important. Promoter contribution, because there are many things. Usually if you see promoter contribution 20%, it's the common said phenomenon. But what is there in 20%? Who all can contribute? Who all are promoters? So all those things we are going to discuss it today. So we discussed that reference date is going to be there. So the eligibility requirements is to be met by a company which intends to get listed as on the reference date, and there are two reference date. One is when the company files the draft offer document or the DRHP with the SEBI. Another is when the offer document is filed with the ROC. So these are the two reference dates which is needed. Further, we saw that who are the entities who are not eligible to make the public issue, and here we saw the list of people. So basically issuer company, or let's say the promoter group, director, selling shareholder. If they are debarred, they cannot come up with the public issue. Then again, if they are debarred from accessing the capital market, right? Uh, then again, the company is not allowed to come up with a public issue. Related company also, right? If you are a common thread between the two companies and one company is disallowed, then the other company also gets debarred due to you being a common thread. We saw this. Sohail is the director in both ABC and PQR, where ABC was debarred, but pursuant to Sohail, now even PQR is also debarred here, right? But once debarred is not forever, you know, when the time period is over, the debarment is generally for a particular time period. You are not debarred from lifetime, though you can be. So if you are debarred from lifetime, then probably next life you can come and make a public issue. But if you are debarred only for a particular time period, then whatever that time period is, 60 days, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, after that you can come and you can access the capital market. And then willful defaulter and fugitive economic offender. So there is no explanation to this, that when they do not become this, but if any of this is a willful defaulter. So once the willful defaulter tag is being removed, then probably you can, but ideally that would be again a disputed one, that once a willful defaulter, once a fugitive economic offender, is always a willful defaulter, fugitive economic offender, or you know, paap dhul jate hain. We don't know about it. Then we saw that when the convertibles are outstanding, right? When the convertibles are outstanding, even then the company cannot come up with a public issue. However, if these convertibles get converted on the date of the, basically before the red herring prospectus is being filed, before that, if it gets converted, right, then in that case there is going to be no problem. The due date of conversion should be before that. Then uh, we covered certain convertible securities are still allowed, where it is employees, if you have issued ESOP to the employees, and if there are fully convertible securities which is getting converted before the filing of the draft red herring, before the filing of the red herring prospectus or before the filing of prospectus, right, then in that case you would be allowed. Then we saw regulation 6, where it said that the conditions which is to be satisfied in case the company wants to come up with a public issue. So regulation 6 specified 4 conditions. If these 4 conditions are specified, so basically what is going to be the route? First of all, you don't have to fall into regulation 5. So you do not satisfy in regulation 5. Only then we will talk about regulation 6. In regulation 6, we'll see these four conditions, right? And if you satisfy these four conditions, then in that case, you can come up with the public issue. But if you do not satisfy these four conditions, then again, terms and conditions apply. But like I mentioned here, however, in both the cases, the company should or the issuer should not fall in regulation 5, because if you fall in regulation 5, the question of regulation 6 will not arise. Now, what are these four conditions? One is the net tangible assets, right? So I think this chart is going to be a better one. So the net tangible assets, right, in the three preceding full years, it should be how much? It should be 3 crore rupees, and this should be 3 crore each. Thereafter, we covered that the average operating profit, right? Again, during the preceding 3 years, this should be rupees 15 crores. The net worth, right? This should be again in the preceding 3 years, this should be 1 crore, right? And this should be the average net worth of at least 1 crore in each. So this is 1 crore each. This is 15 crore average. And then if the name has changed, then 50% of the revenue should arise from the change of the name, right? If the name has been changed in last 1 year. So these are the four conditions. If you satisfy these four conditions, you can come up with a normal normal in the sense you can come up with a fixed price issue, or you can come up with a book built issue. But there is a company which do not satisfy these four conditions, yet it wants to come up with a public issue. SEBI would say we don't have any problem, but then you need to fulfill certain criteria in the sense you need to satisfy certain conditions and come up with a public issue in a certain manner, where it said that you have to come up with a public issue by book building only. You are not going to decide the public issue, you are not going to decide the price of the issue. Let the market decide what is going to be your price. And secondly, 75% of the offer, it has to be given to the QIB, and if 75% is not received, then your issue is failed. You'll have to refund all the money that you have received. So this is what we had covered till now. So is there any doubt in this? Is there any doubt in this?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's pick up regulation 7. We'll do regulation 7, we'll do regulation 8, and then straight away we'll skip three regulations and we'll shift to the main or promoter contribution. That's the next part of this chapter. And there we are going to cover the promoter contribution and the minimum promoter contribution. Okay. So here it says that an issuer making initial public offer shall ensure. So what does this mean? Does it bifurcate 6-1 satisfied companies or 6-1 not satisfied companies, or is it for all? So I'll keep on asking you so many questions. One, so that you stay awake, and secondly, I realize that we are on the same page, and third, this will again help you to remember, you'll retain. So tell me, an issuer making initial public offer shall ensure. So this is for which company? 6-1 compliant company or a company like Zomato? So technically it is for both. Okay, this is for both because it doesn't bifurcate. It just says that an issuer making a IPO. So it can be a company which is satisfying 6-1, or it can be a company which do not satisfy 6-1. So an issuer making an initial public offer shall ensure that it has made application to, so first and foremost, application to one or more recognized stock exchange, and they have sought an in principle approval for listing of their securities. Okay, and then out of those they have to select one of them as their designated stock exchange. Now if you remember, we had the similar provisions in the Companies Act also, right? If you remember, can anyone tell me which section it was? We had the similar provision in the Companies Act also. Remember, the first day we covered the provisions of the Companies Act also. Same provision like section 40, correct? That the application has to be made to the stock exchange, right? And you need to seek the in principle approval that yes, we allow you to list our securities. Now, you're coming up with a public issue. Then, of course, one thing, after your securities get public or your company gets public, is that that particular security will be freely traded, right? And the trading has to take place at the stock exchange. Therefore, before you do the public issue, make sure you have received the in principle approval from the stock exchange, because at the end of the day, your shares are going to be listed on the stock exchange and not at SEBI. So this principle, in principle approval, has to be obtained from the stock exchange, right? Then it also has to enter into an agreement with the depository for the dematerialization. Now, of course, in Companies Act, if you see, there was one amendment which was made in section number 29, right? So similar requirement is there in section number 29. Can you see how interrelated everything is? So in section number 29, the companies have been mandated that आपको अपने सिक्योरिटीज को डिमटेरियलाइज कराना होगा जब आप पब्लिक इशू के लिए आओगे. And in fact, now they have removed the word public company. Now they say any company as may be prescribed. Correct. So listed company, mandatory dematerialization, other companies as may be prescribed. So आपको यहाँ पे ये देखना है that when the company comes up with a public issue, so they need to enter into an agreement with the depository, and they have to get their securities dematerialized, converted into the electronic form. Mandatorily ये आपको करना होगा. Then they also have to ensure that whatever shares which are held by the promoters, okay, they are in the dematerialized form prior to the filing of the offer document. See, what is the difference between clause B and clause C? Clause B deals with the mandatory dematerialization of the securities which are already issued and proposed to be issued. And clause C specifically targets the promoter, that all the securities, specified securities which are held by the promoters, that has to be in the dematerialized form, and this should be done prior to the filing of the offer document. Then all the existing shares which are partly paid up, they have to be made fully paid up, right? So either make the shares fully paid up or those shares should be forfeited. So this is another condition. And then it has made firm arrangements of finance through verifiable means towards 75% of the stated means of finance for the specific project proposed to be funded from issue proceeds, excluding the amount to be raised through the proposed public issue or through identifiable internal accruals. Now I want you to read this two times and let me know what do you interpret this. इसका क्या मतलब होगा, इसको दो बार करो. अगर रिकॉर्डेड वीडियोस आप देख रहे हो, then just pause the video and read it twice and let me know what is your interpretation. And don't even try to Google about it, because when you'll Google about it, it will give you the same sentence. You may find two interpretations of this on Google, but one is wrong, another is correct. So you'll probably face difficulty in understanding which is correct, which is wrong. No? I hope you all are awake in today's lecture. Okay, just ping a hi in the comment section so that I realize you all have not slept.
We are awake.
Okay, Pooja is awake. Janet has also raised hand. Correct. So, Muskan has texted in the comment section. Thankfully, my quorum is awake. So, what do you mean by this? इसका क्या मतलब होगा? Oh, 100%. Unanimous resolution pass. So, इसका क्या मतलब होगा? That the firm arrangements have been made through verifiable means. देखो, I'll tell you. Just see. Company has made firm arrangements of finance through verifiable means, which means you are sure that the money will flow in from this particular source. How much it should be? It should be at least 75%, okay, of the stated means for the specified project which is proposed to be funded from the issue proceeds. So there is a project P in which you are going to invest, okay, let's say 500 rupees. You'll be investing 500 rupees, right? Now they say that you have made firm arrangements from the verifiable means for 75%, okay, excluding the amount to be raised through the proposed public issue or through the existing identifiable accruals. So if I say from my proposed public issue is for 200 rupees, then in that case, what is the amount left? The amount left is 300, and of this 300, I need what? I need 75% at least through the verifiable means, which means I need a verifiable means of finance from 225 for this 225 rupees, that yes, this 225 rupees I am going to receive from, let's say, bank or through unsecured loan, or promoters are going to contribute. What is going to be the source? This should be through the verifiable source. Does this make sense? Now just read it again. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? Now I'll tell you, I have another question for all of you, that what if the public issue is not for a specific project? It is, let's say, for how do I say? It is for your, let's presume it is for your repayment of the loans. A lot of the public issues that have come in the recent times, their main objective of issue was that they are going to take money from the public and they are going to repay their loans, right? Or it's a OFS, where the public issue proceeds would not go to the company, it would go to the selling shareholder, which means the object of the issue is disinvestment, right? Now in that case, will this clause be applicable? Will this clause be applicable? Answer is no. Okay, answer is no. You just need to see that जब आप किसी पर्टिकुलर प्रोजेक्ट के लिए फंड्स को रेज कर रहे हो, तो वहां पर बताया हुआ है whatever is your project cost or whatever the amount is needed for that project, from that exclude the amount which you are raising from the public issue exclude the amount which are there from internal sources. After that, whatever amount is left, for that at least 75% should be there from the verifiable source. Does this make sense? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
एक चीज और देखना, how do I get this? Like I mentioned, even if you refer to the cream commentaries on SEBI, you'll not find anything with respect to this part. There was no explanation. So when I read this, I was referring K Shaker. So it's an excellent book. It's a 2 volume thick book. Now the new version is of 3 volume. 2019 edition is of 3 volume book. Now in that, there are so many cases, there are so many things, but for this there was nothing mentioned. So how do you cross verify this particular amount or any particular clause? So one way is you can get in touch with seniors, you can ask them, but again, for everything you cannot go to them, right? You yourself feel, little embarrassed to go and ask each and every point, right? So what do? So personally what I did, I picked up the prospectus. Okay, I picked up the prospectus of various companies, and in that there is a column called as the object of issue. I was like, in the object of issue, somewhere or the other will get some project, and I'll see that how company has dealt with this particular clause. Because whatever is given in the ICDR regulation, you will get all those points in the the DRHP or the red herring prospectus or the final prospectus. So in the offer document, you are definitely going to get those particular clause. So the best ways to do that. So I checked somewhere around 40 companies prospectus, and I found it in one particular prospectus which was Adani Power, and this is a prospectus of 2009, right? So just see, here in this they've explained it very clearly, because there was interpretation issue that 75% of what is it, the total project cost or excluding this or what. So there were multiple interpretations which could have been made, but once I saw this, the provision was crystal clear. Now you would say, sir, this is from 2009, then uh, 2018 ICDR. So the provision is exactly same. This particular provision is exactly same, 75% through the verifiable means. So just see this. It says that the total fund requirement for the Mundra phase 4 power project. So here the issue is for a particular project, and these two projects. This is how much? This is 1,82,230 crore. 75% of the stated means of finance, excluding the funds to be raised through the issue, has been arranged as follows. So the aggregate funds required for the object of the issue is this much. Their public issue, funding through the public issue, was 21,930. So they said now the balance funds which are needed is how much? Is 1,60,300 million. Now for that they mentioned 75% of the issue. So 75% of this is 1,20,225. Now, how they are going to meet this 75%? They have mentioned it here. So arrangement regarding the 75% of the funds required, excluding the proceeds of the issue, is they are saying this is getting funded through the existing equity and existing through a third party debt, where they mentioned they have loan agreements and they also have the sanction letter. So on an average, they have made a firm arrangement of 1,44,306 crore. However, ICDR requires them to make firm arrangement for 1,20,225 million. So I just said crore, so you can ignore that. I hope now this point is crystal clear to all of you. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. Then it says that for the general corporate purpose. Okay, for the general corporate purpose. Now what is general corporate purpose? So when it comes to the proceeds of issue, the object of issue, I'll show you in the offer document also. Now when I say the object of issue, you'll find two things. One, you will have a specific object, or there is going to be specific project where they are going to, or there is going to be a specific reason. Now these reasons could be anything. These reasons could be for the expansion, then this could be for, let's say, repayment of the debt. The reason of public issue could be to provide exit opportunity for the company. The specific reason for public issue could be, let's say, acquisition of peer companies. It could be anything. And then there is going to be general corporate purpose. Now, general corporate purpose means what? It means you do not say what is going to be the reason. It could be used for anything. You can also say this is like the miscellaneous head. This can be used for office and administration purpose. It could be used for anything. So, as per ICDR regulation, you can have maximum of 25% that can be used for the general corporate purpose, and at least 75% should be used for the specific reason only. Got it? So if I am raising 100 rupees from the public, I can use maximum of 25 rupees for the general corporate purpose, and at least 75 rupees I have to use it for that specific reason or for that specific purpose for which I have raised money. So this is what is given here. The amount for general corporate purpose as mentioned in the objects of the issue, in the draft offer document, and in the offer document shall not exceed 25% of the amount being raised by the issuer. Okay, so here it is. So the net proceeds, so this is I have picked up. So this is basically the barbecue nation. This I have picked up from the barbecue nation final offer document, their final prospectus. So they say that their net proceeds is for capital expenditure for expansion and for opening of new restaurants by the company. Then the second objective is for the prepayment or the repayment of all or the portion of the current borrowings which is available by the company. And third is the general corporate purpose. Collectively they are called as the objects of the issue. And then they had also mentioned, so their issue was 1800 million, and then they mentioned that offer expenses amounts to 120, so the net proceeds is 1679. Now they have also given that 1679. Okay, this 1679, how this will be bifurcated. So they mentioned that 1679, 546 will be used for the expansion, 750 would be used for this, and general corporate purposes 383. So mathematically if you see, 383.21 divided by 1679 is 22.8%. So if you see, this is 22.8%, which is less than 25. So they have mentioned this. The amount utilized for general corporate purpose shall not exceed 25% of the gross proceed. So it has not exceeded, it is only 22.8%. Does this make sense? Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So Sohail has just texted that he is facing issue in connecting. Okay. Next, we have regulation 8. So regulation 8, this deals with the additional conditions which has to be. Okay, Sohail has already joined. Perfect. So regulation 8, it says that there are additional conditions for the offer for sale. So in case of OFS, there are additional conditions, and mostly these conditions are to be complied with the selling shareholder only, right? It's not more related to the company specific, it's more related to the selling shareholder specific. So here it says that only such fully paid up equity shares may be offered for sale to public which have been held by the sellers. Okay, so very smartly they have mentioned only fully paid up equity shares. Okay, and then they have used this word such. And what do you mean by such? Such is those shares which are held by the sellers for a period of at least 1 year prior to filing the draft offer document. Only those securities can be allowed, or those are basically you can offer those shares for OFS in case of a public issue, right? So for OFS, the selling shareholder needs to have the selling shareholder needs to have a fully paid up share plus minimum 1 year holding. Now, does this mean these selling shareholders are the promoters or it can be any person? ये जो selling shareholders है ये promoters है या it can be any person? Is it promoters or it can be any person? Any person. Absolutely, right? Just that the person who is selling the shares, right? So these should be minimum 1 year holding when you file the draft offer document. Then they have a proviso and it says that provided that in case of equity shares received on conversion or exchange of fully paid up compulsorily convertible security including depository receipts that are being offered for sale, the holding period of such convertible security. So just understand, in case the shares are received, the shares which you are holding, it is of the shares that you have received due to the conversion, right? You need to have the holding period of 1 year. So what should be the holding period? Like, do you exclude the convertible part or you take into consideration the convertible part also? So that what is being answered here. So provided that in case the equity shares received on conversion or exchange of fully paid up compulsorily convertible security including depository receipts are being offered for sale, the holding period of such convertible securities including depository receipts as well as of that resultant equity shares together shall be considered for the purpose of calculation of 1 year period referred to in this sub-regulation, and further that provided further that such holding period of 1 year is required to be complied with at the time of filing of the draft offer document. So what does this mean? Take it this way. So let's say you had, let's say, convertible security, let's say convertible debentures, these convertible debentures. So is there any time period for conversion of security? That if you have issued the security, it has to be converted, or you cannot convert these securities before this, before that? There is no time period specified, right? If you have issued the security, okay, if you have issued the convertible security, then there is no time period that it has to be converted within so and so time period. So let's say these convertible securities you had issued on 1st January 2021, these are getting converted on, let's say, 1st August 2021. So this is now, here it is basically due for conversion. ये आपके securities convert हो गए. Now if the company wants to file the DRHP, what should be the date? What is going to be the nearest date for filing of DRHP? Assuming that these are the selling shareholders who were holding these convertible securities. हम, तो यहाँ पे आपके दो ऑप्शंस आएंगे. वन इज, इट शुड बी 1/8/2022, बिकॉज यहाँ पे ये इक्विटी में कन्वर्ट हुआ, तो यहाँ से 1 साल. और इट शुड बी 1/1/2022. ऑप्शन ए, ऑप्शन बी, विच इज द करेक्ट आंसर? ए और बी? बी. ओके, बी इज द करेक्ट आंसर एंड नॉट ए, बिकॉज यहाँ पे this time period will also be taken into consideration. So that's what is given here, that provided in case equity shares are received on the conversion or exchange of fully paid up compulsorily convertible security, including the depository receipts, which are being offered for sale, the holding period of the convertible securities, including the depository receipts, would be taken together and shall be considered for the calculation of 1 year. Okay, is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, you see there is an explanation which says that if the equity shares arising out of the conversion of the fully paid up compulsorily convertible are being offered for sale, the conversion or exchange should be completed. So again, what they are saying is the conversion or the exchange should be completed prior filing the offer document. Okay, and it should give full disclosure in terms of the conversion or the exchanges which are made in the draft offer document. So this is being given here. Then, provided that the requirement of holding of share of 1 year will not be applicable, this can be an independent question. Right, this can be an independent question that पिछले 1 साल का जो आपका होल्डिंग पीरियड है इन केस ऑफ OFS, it will not be applicable. So this will not be applicable when it is a offer for sale by the government company or by a statutory authority or by a corporation or any special purpose vehicle which is set up and controlled by any one of them, but it is engaged in the infrastructure sector. So then there is no problem. So generally the reason why this exemption is given, because if the government company has set up a project or something where the fundings are needed, right, or a lot of funds have been blocked and you need more funding, so immediately they can come up with a public issue and they need not wait for 1 year. See, if you see the law which has been made, right, it has to be complied with the governments also. The government also should also comply the all the rules and regulations whatever is being given here. If you want certain benefits to be given or certain exemptions, certain relaxations, that has to be specified in the law, because if it is not specified in the law, then in that case you cannot give that exemption or you cannot make an exception for the government also. Okay, then if the shares are being offered to you through the merger or amalgamation, right, now this is basically you were the shareholder of A Limited. This A Limited, being the transferor company, got merged with B Limited. Now, of course, you are not going to hold the shares of A Limited, you are holding the shares of B Limited. Now, why you are holding the shares of B Limited? Because you have received the shares pursuant to the scheme which is approved by the tribunal, okay, or by the central government in case of a fast track merger under section 232 234, in lieu of the business and invested capital which had his existence for a period of more than 1 year prior to the approval of the scheme. So let's say you were holding the shares of A Limited from last 5 years. In B Limited, it's been only 2 months, and now this company wants to come up with a public issue and you want to give your shares in the public issue as the selling shareholder. Are you eligible? So technically, if you see, if this proviso was not there, you are not eligible, because the shares which you have received is not pursuant to a convertible security. See, for convertible security they had made a proviso, so there was no way that you could come up with a public issue, or basically you could be a part of the public issue as a selling shareholder. So that's where they have made another proviso, and they have said that in case you are holding the shares of this company which intends to get listed, okay, and in that you are not holding the shares for 1 year period, still you are eligible for OFS, provided you have received these shares by way of a scheme, okay, and the shares of the transferor company you were holding for at least 1 year. Okay, is this clear? Okay, tell me one thing, will this work? Will this work? 6 months, 6 months.
No.
Why?
So because prior for a period of more than 1 year prior to the approval of such schemes.
So here this is the issue. So if you try to see this, here it can work. Here if I say 6 months convertible security, 6 months equity, will this work? Answer is yes. But if you do the same thing here, it is not going to work. Here it has to be minimum 1 year. Okay, it has to be minimum, not even minimum 1 year, it should be minimum more than 1 year. Arey, is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
तो ये पॉइंट आपको यहाँ पर ध्यान रखना है. सो स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन आएगा, what are the conditions, आगे हम और देखते हैं. So if the equity shares which are issued to you, it is by way of bonus shares. Now again the logic is still same. If the bonus shares you have received on the shares which were held for at least 1 year prior to the filing of the draft of a document with the SEBI, then in that case there is no problem. But in case of bonus, there are certain restrictions. One is basically what they are trying to do, that bonus should be as per the regulations. You should comply ICDR. Now, of course, if it's a IPO, then there is no ICDR, but you should comply with the Companies Act. And Companies Act clearly mentions that what should be the source of bonus issue. The source of bonus issue is out of the free reserves and the share premium. Okay, and the bonus is not out of the revaluation reserve. So if it is out of the revaluation reserve or unrealized profits of the issuer, then in that case this bonus issue will not be taken into consideration. So आपके पास आपने एक शेयर्स को परचेज किया था, और यहाँ पे बेसिकली यू हैड परचेज द शेयर्स, और यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक का एक टाइम पीरियड, फिर यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक का एक टाइम पीरियड. हियर यू हैव रिसीव्ड the bonus, and here if I say you are filing the DRHP, this is 6 months, this is 6 months. तो ये बोनस इशू वाले शेयर्स को अगर आप यहाँ पे OFS में देना चाहते हो, तो what conditions should be satisfied or what conditions should be fulfilled? Just see that one is these shares, जो शेयर्स आपने यहाँ पे बाय किया था, इसका होल्डिंग पीरियड कितना होना चाहिए? 1 year. Plus the bonus that you have received, okay, the bonus that you have received is out of the free reserves and share premium which was there in the books of accounts, see, existing in the books of accounts as at the end of the preceding financial year in which the draft of a document was made. So let's say this is let's presume 1st December 2020. This is 1st December 2020. Then the bonus issue is made out of which reserves? what is the source of bonus? The source of bonus is basically your free reserves or securities premium, which was there in the company as on 31st March 2020. Is this point clear? Is this point clear?
Yes,
देखो
sir.
देखो इसका लॉजिक भी है. If you see it in a very logical manner, if I say on 31st March 2020, these reserves were there in the company, these reserves were there in the balance sheet, then don't you think in a way these reserves belong to the shareholder? So indirectly the shareholder was invested in the company only. Yes or no? His funds was already invested. Now it is just the capitalization of the reserves where we say that the money which was there in the reserves is getting converted and getting transferred into the share capital of the company. So in a way the funds are already invested, and that is the reason we say that bonus issue does not impact the shareholders fund. Remember, like Janit, Sohail, both of you would agree to this because आप लोगों को मैंने एग्जीक्यूटिव में अकाउंट्स भी पढ़ाया है, राइट? सो बोथ ऑफ यू आर गोइंग टू अग्री टू दिस पॉइंट दैट द इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर फंड्स रिमेन सेम. आपको अगर याद हो वो बुक में ऐसा था ना, इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल 10 rupees and I used to say this is the reserves. So this is 10 lakh, this is 10 lakh. Company has given the bonus issue of 5 lakh. So what is going to happen? From here 5 lakh will get deducted and here 5 lakh will get added. So ultimately if you see, it is still 20 lakh which is invested by the shareholders, and that is the reason we say the wealth of the shareholders do not change. So whatever is there in this reserve was still invested in the company. So some relaxation, a reasonable relaxation has been made, that it is absolutely fine if the bonus issue is made out of this reserve. Now very smartly they have mentioned that at the end of the preceding financial year. Now, if you are receiving bonus from the current financial year, if you are receiving any securities premium in the current financial year, or if the reserves are created in the current financial year, and you are utilizing that as the bonus issue, just to claim this exemption that bonus issue में तो 1 year का restriction नहीं रहता, so then it is not allowed, because I hope you understand what is the intent of SEBI. Okay, directly or indirectly the intent is that you are invested in the company for a period of 1 year. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So broadly अगर आप यहाँ पे देखो तो एग्जाम के अंदर आपको अगर क्वेश्चन मिलेगा तो वो क्वेश्चन ये आएगा that what is the restriction for the OFS. What is going to be the restriction for the OFS? तो यहाँ पर आप सिंपली क्या बताओगे कि अगर किसी कंपनी को OFS करना है तो उसमें जो सेलिंग शेयर होल्डर है, दिस सेलिंग शेयर होल्डर should have a minimum holding of 1 year. Correct. Now then there are exceptions. Correct. One exception is convertible. So in this case convertible plus the shares, the OFS one, the holding period of these two should be what? These should be 1 year. Then it is pursuant to the scheme. In the OFS, you are giving the shares of transferee company. Then minimum 1 year holding of transferor company. Okay. And the next exception is with respect to the bonus issue. So in case of bonus issue, OFS shares are the bonus ones. So the shares on which bonus is received इसका होल्डिंग पीरियड 1 ईयर होना चाहिए, प्लस द सोर्स ऑफ बोनस preceding financial year, free reserves or securities premium. Make sense? Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and start with the promoter contribution. So in promoter contribution, you are going to have regulation 14, 15, 16, right? Rather 16 and all this comes in the lock-in period and all. Basically, you need to cover two major regulations here in case of promoter contribution. Now, if you remember, in the first lecture, I had discussed why this particular clause has been inserted, the concept of promoter contribution. So it says that, okay, company, you are coming up with a IPO of, let's say, 100 crore. Then out of this 100 crore, X percentage should be invested by the promoter only. It has to be invested by the promoter only. This should be minimum X% should be invested by the promoter, though they can invest more than that, but X percentage should be there. So minimum X percentage should be invested by the promoter. This has been given. Now maximum, let's say Y% they can invest, and this is also for the promoter. So minimum is given by ICDR, okay, and maximum is given by SCRA. Can you connect this? Can you connect this? However, in case of ICDR, you don't have to study this. But if you remember, ये मैंने timeline बनाया. This is 0 and this is 100. Remember, minimum public shareholding. So this is the minimum public shareholding. ये आपको maintain करना है, which means this is the maximum for the promoters. Minimum for promoters is given in ICDR. तो ये maximum promoters के लिए कौन बता रहा है? This is given by SCRA. तो अगर आप इसको ब्रीच कर जाओगे, लेट्स से प्रमोटर्स दे रीच दिस जोन, द एमपीएस जोन, देन SCRA would say better get your company delisted and stay out of the market. Why you are coming? Why you are listed only? This is 20%. This 20% is minimum for the promoters, and this is given in ICDR. So this is the minimum promoter, or basically this is the promoter contribution zone. Okay, guys, this is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
फर्दर अगर आप यहाँ पे देखोगे तो मैं एक बार ये प्रमोटर्स को इरेज करता हूँ और आपको इनके आगे का रेस्ट्रिक्शंस भी बताता हूँ. आगे का रेस्ट्रिक्शंस क्या है? ये जो मिनिमम प्रमोटर कंट्रीब्यूशन है, इसमें आगे लग जाएगा लॉक इन पीरियड. सो सर ये लॉक इन पीरियड कंप्लीट हो गया, उसके बाद आफ्टर दैट देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम, यू मे नॉट इन्वेस्ट स्टे इन्वेस्टेड इन दैट. सो विल सी द प्रमोटर्स which fall below 20% also. But as far as the maximum promoter contribution is concerned, this has to be complied at all the times. Till the time the company is listed, this has to be done there. Now, is this point clear to all of you? The minimum promoter contribution has a lock-in period. After that lock-in period gets over, there is no problem. The company or the promoter can reduce their shareholding, but maximum has to be maintained throughout. Okay, let's see what is there with respect to the promoter contribution. So before we go ahead, like I said, we'll discuss the definitions as and when we hit the concepts. So promoter contribution. So who is a promoter? Now this definition that has been picked up here, this is almost like your Companies Act definition. This is same like your Companies Act definition. A person who is named in the draft offer document or in the offer document or is identified by way of annual return as the promoter, or the person who has control over the affairs of the issuer. Okay, it could be directly, it could be indirectly, it could be because he is the shareholder or he is the director or otherwise. So otherwise is a broad term and it can cover everything. Or in accordance of whose advice, directions and instructions of the board of directors the issuer company is accustomed to act. Now when I say issuer company is accustomed to act, what does the word accustomed to act means? It means have been doing. So have been doing means consistent, काफी टाइम से आप ये कर रहे हो, and they don't have any option, this has to be mandatorily followed. So if the person has said that okay, go for the public issue, then the company do not have any option, the company will come up for the public issue. The company wants to come up with the public issue and this person said no, the company should not come with the public issue, then company cannot come up with the public issue. If the company wants to do buyback, this person says that no, I don't want the buyback, then in that case no buyback. हाँ सोहेल, एक्सेप्शन में प्रोफेशनल सर्विस यहाँ पे आ जाएगा, बट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से, जो वीटो अग्रीमेंट्स होते हैं ना, वीटो अग्रीमेंट्स, बहुत सारे पीई इन्वेस्टर्स जब कंपनी में पैसा लगाते हैं, दे गेट वीटो राइट्स. सो दैट वीटो राइट, सो बेसिकली अगर आप देखो, दिस इज व्हाट, दिस इज कंट्रोल ओनली. This is control only. When you will see the definition of control, you will get the same thing. So यहाँ पर आप क्या कर रहे हो, basically veto लगा रहे हो. Okay. Now it will not apply if you are merely acting in the professional capacity. So let's say you are a consultant to the company and you are giving an independent advice to the company. In that case, this provision will not be applicable to you. Why? Because you are giving your professional services. So just like how you study that if you are part of the incorporation of the company, right, just because you are part of the incorporation of the company and later on any fraud is being found, you cannot be held liable just because you were part of the incorporation as a professional. Now of course, if there was any professional misconduct from your end, then you can be held liable, but you cannot be held liable for the frauds which have been done by the promoters of the company with respect to the incorporation, or let's say the purpose of incorporation was fraudulent, so you cannot be held liable in that particular case. So you need to see this, that if you are in a professional capacity, this is an unsaid rule, you cannot be held liable for your any misconduct or something. So in similarly, if you are in a professional capacity, you are giving your advice and the board of directors, they listen to you, because remember, accustomed to act can be taken as they have been doing or they mandatorily follow. So they have been doing, so let's say you are the consultant and you're giving the advice and they are listening to your advice, then in this case, in case of professional capacity, you are not the promoter of the company. Then provided further that the financial institutions, the scheduled commercial bank, or the foreign portfolio investor other than individual corporate bodies, mutual fund, venture capital fund, alternate investment fund, foreign venture capital fund. Don't you think this is more or less like your QIB, qualified institutional buyers? So
Yes.
what is the difference between QIB definition and this definition, this proviso? Is there a difference? So you don't have pension fund here, right? Correct. So certain category have been excluded, right? So not every QIB will fall into this particular exemption. But what this exemption is, they shall not be deemed to be the promoter merely by virtue of the fact that 20% or more of the equity share capital of the issuer is held by such person unless such person satisfies the other requirements prescribed under these regulations. So what does it mean? So let's say a venture capital fund holds more than 20% in the company. Okay, a venture capital fund holds more than 20% shares in the company. Will you say that that particular person is the promoter of the company? Answer is no. Right, you cannot say that this person, just because he is holding more than 20%, so he is a promoter of the company. So these exceptions have been given. So two exceptions. One is if you are giving your advice as a professional in the professional capacity and the issuer company is accustomed to act, then in that case there is an exception. You will not fall into the definition of promoter. And if you are certain category of investors where you are invested more than 20%, then in that case you will not be called as the promoter of the company. Also, when it comes to the definition of control, while I teach takeover, there also I tell this, but the Shubham Venture judgment, okay, Shubham Venture judgment falls into this category only. It was when the company had filed the draft red herring prospectus to the SEBI, and their SEBI said that this particular investor should be categorized as a promoter of the company. Why? Because they have more than 25% of the shares, they have the ability to block. I think they had some 40% shares in the company. So, based on all those things. However, this matter went up to Supreme Court and the matter was in the favor of the company that okay, they should not be categorized as the promoter of the company. But again, it was mentioned that this should not be taken as the precedent. Supreme Court itself said that this should not be taken as the precedent, and from there the entire concept of control is into limelight, whether a particular person is controlling a entity or it is not controlling the entity. Because what this person said, that we have 40% stake in the company, we also have the negative voting rights, we have the ability to block the special resolution, and we also have some special voting rights and all, we have voting agreements and all we have, but that is not to exercise control over the company, that is only to protect our investment. So this was the issue, whether the protective rights can be considered as control or not. So they said that we are just exercising the protective rights, and the rights which we are going to exercise is not in the day-to-day business. It is only when certain decisions are taken by the company which may impact our investments in the company, that's where we'll come into picture and will vote. So I hope this is now clear. Do read Shubham Venture judgment. Okay. Someday I'll show you the DRHP and the RHP of that particular case. Anyway, let's come back. So the minimum promoter contribution, like I mentioned, it should hold at least 20%. Now 20% of what? 20% of the post issue capital. Now, what if the company do not have any identifiable promoter? Then in this case, this particular clause will not be applicable. Okay, so it's not mandatory that when the company is coming up with a public issue, you have to find out a promoter. It can be a professionally run company. So in that case, there will be no logic or there will be no restriction of the minimum promoter contribution. Now, when it says 20% of the post issue capital, so let's say A is the pre issue capital plus B is the IPO and C is the total post issue capital. So इसका 20% is what? It's the minimum promoter contribution. So answer my one question. Can a promoter not subscribe a single share in the public issue, or in this public issue he has to subscribe 20% of the shares? Sohail is saying no compulsion. What about others? Sohail has now given an exception also. Exception in the sense he has put a condition. If he already has enough. Okay. What about others? What about others? The promoters shall hold at least 20% of the post issue capital. Now my question is, when the company is coming up with a public issue, promoters do not subscribe a single share. Can you say the company has complied the ICDR regulation, or there is some non-compliance? So what Sohail has said is correct if they already have 20%. So let's say this is 300 crores. Okay. Company is coming up with a public issue of 200 crores. So if you see, the post issue capital becomes 500 crore. Now from this 500 crore, minimum of 20% is the promoter contribution. So minimum of 20%, which means 100 crore. However, if you see, the promoter already has 300 crore, presuming the promoter holds 300 crore completely. And if let's say there is some bifurcation, let's say promoter holds 150 crore, 50 crore is held with the, so this is promoter, this is let's say bank, and then balance 100 is let's say the ESOP, and it is by the employees. Then in that case, still there is no problem, because if you see, the minimum requirement is of 100 crore, they are holding 150 crores. Okay, so Jinit has also answered, not necessary for the promoter to subscribe for the shares. Okay, uh, let me just post another question to all of you. Tell me, let's say the pre-issue capital is 300. Company is coming up with a IPO of another 300, which means the post-issue capital is 600. In this 300, let's say promoters hold 80. 80 is held by the promoters, and balance 220 is held by others. Now you need to find out of this public issue, minimum shares to be acquired by the promoters. So Sohail has answered 40. Quick response, and that's a correct answer. Pooja has also answered 40. That's a quick response. Because what you are going to check is this. 600 ka 20%. So this becomes 120. 120 में 80 already promoters के पास है. So balance 40. So out of this 300, 40 shares would be acquired by the promoters, and then balance would be acquired by others. Okay. Simple. Very, very simple. Now, sometimes it may happen that the promoters are not able to contribute 20%. So in that case, an exception has been made. However, the exception is not that their 20% threshold would be reduced, but instead of promoters, someone else can fill the gap. Okay. So if I am the promoter, so take this particular case, this particular case, 80 is already held by the promoter. The promoter have to contribute 40. And this particular promoter says that I don't have 40 crore rupees to invest in the public issue. However, I need this public issue of 300 crores. Otherwise, whatever I have made investment in the project, this will all get, sunk. So SEBI has made an exception. SEBI says that, see, we cannot get away you cannot get away with the provision of this 120. This 20% has to be complied. So if you cannot invest make some other person as the promoter of the company, and he will invest, this balance 40. Okay. He says that no, I don't have any person who can, any relative of mine who can invest 40 crore, or let's say no one is there to be ready to be the promoter of the company to invest this 40 crore, or let's say he's himself not comfortable that I have put my heart and soul, my blood to this company, I've given my blood to this company, and tomorrow someone will come and he will say that, I have 40, so 2 is to 1 promoters ka ratio ho jayega, I have 80, the other person will have 40, so why he should get all the benefits and all, right? So somewhat there is a problem that this 40 cannot be pumped in by the promoter of the company. So for that, a exception has been made. And what is the exception? It says that this gap of 20% can be filled by the alternate investment funds, the foreign venture capital investor, or the scheduled commercial bank, or the public financial institution, or the insurance company. Okay, so these are the 5 category of investors. If they say that we are ready to contribute, now just understand, they are contributing to meet the shortfall of the minimum promoter contribution, then in that case there is no problem, you can take money from them and they can invest this amount. Okay, however, there is still a condition. And what is the condition? Subject to the maximum of 10% of the post issue capital without being identified as the promoter. So now if you can see, you'll be able to connect with this proviso also. Got it? Right? So if they are also contributing towards the minimum promoter contribution, they'll not be called as the promoter, one. And secondly, what is the maximum which they can contribute? That is 10% of the post issue capital. अभी promoter के पास 10% भी नहीं ही है, तो फिर प्लीज आप पब्लिक इशू लेकर मत ही आओ, because again it is goes back to the same logic why promoter contribution concept was introduced. It was so that it does not happen that the promoter takes money from the public, invests recklessly in the business, and siphons off the money, and ultimately all the loss is borne by the investors. Now, if you see, if promoter has blocked 20% of the funds in the company, then in that case, the chances that promoter is going to siphon off the money is less. A, and B, if promoter with the promoter, alternate investment fund, venture capital investor, commercial bank, insurance company, PFIs. So no, SEBI trust these type of investors and they say it's okay. If you are contribute on behalf of the promoters, it is absolutely fine. So tell me, in this particular case, if the promoters do not contribute this 40, can this 40 be contributed by the 5 investors? Can a AIF say that, okay, I am ready to contribute this 40%? Can the AIF say, I'll contribute this 40, there is no problem? Or the promoter will have to get some money? So in this particular case, yes. So Pooja has also answered. So in this particular case, Sohail has also answered. Yes, Muskan has also answered. Why? Because you need to see 10% of this. So 10% of the post issue capital is what? It is 60. And what they have to contribute is only 40. So there is no problem. Okay. So just understand, the moment I say 10% of the issue, then it is not allowed. The moment I say 10% of the post issue capital, it is allowed. So be very, very careful what you write in the exam, right? It's all post issue capital. It is all post issue capital. 20% of the post issue capital. Then this exemption is there that in case the company is a professionally run company where the company do not have the promoter, then in that case, promoter contribution is not there. Just pick up the red herring prospectus of a professionally run company, let's say L&T. You pick up L&T's prospectus, any of the subsidiaries of the L&T which they have. So L&T Infotech or whatever, the recently the company that I've got listed, there you will find this particular clause that minimum promoter contribution. So this clause is not applicable to us because we do not have any identifiable promoter. Now if the 20% is not met by the promoter, then a maximum of 10% can be contributed by AIF, foreign venture capital fund, scheduled commercial bank, PFI, and insurance company, and they can contribute this towards the promoter contribution. However, they contributing for the shortfall for the promoters would not make them also the promoters of the company unless they satisfy the other conditions. Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now we have subsection 2. So promoter contribution तो ठीक है, but promoter contribution का form क्या होगा? What should be the form of promoter contribution? आप promoter contribution को कैसे वर्कआउट करोगे? तो आप यहाँ पे देखो, the promoter, so the promoter shall contribute 20% as stipulated in sub regulation 1 either by way of equity shares including the SR shares. So right now just understand there is a special equity share which is SR, or by way of subscription to convertible security. So the minimum promoter contribution, right? The forms of promoter contribution, this can be what? This can be equity shares, this can be convertibles. Okay. Then it says that provided if the price of the equity shares allotted pursuant to the conversion is not predetermined and not disclosed in the offer document, the promoter shall contribute only by way of subscription of the convertible security issued in the public issue and shall undertake in writing to subscribe the equity shares pursuant to the conversion of such securities. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? It says that so normally when the convertible securities are issued, so warrant में तो by default आप upfront conversion ratio बता देते हो. Convertible securities में हो सकता है आप बताओ, हो सकता है आप नहीं बताओ. You can also say that when the conversion would be due, as on that day whatever would be the valuation of the company, we are going to issue the shares as per that day's price. So आपका प्राइस जो है वो अपफ्रंट प्री डिटरमाइन नहीं किया गया और उसको आपने डिस्क्लोज भी नहीं किया. तो अब यहाँ पर क्या बताया हुआ है? द प्रमोटर शैल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट ओनली बाय वे ऑफ सब्सक्रिप्शन टू द कन्वर्टेबल सिक्योरिटी बीइंग इशूड in the public issue, okay, and shall undertake in writing to subscribe the equity shares pursuant to the conversion of these. So basically वो convertible securities में जो भी आपका शेयर्स रहेगा जो पब्लिक इशू में आपने दिया, he is going to acquire all those shares. इस चीज का वो यहाँ पे एक undertaking देगा in the writing, okay, that he is going to subscribe. So it's not that he is holding the convertible security right now and probably after the public issue is done he would say that okay, I am selling this convertible security to someone else. Let's say it was a convertible preference share, so he's saying that I will sell this convertible preference share to someone, right? So it is not allowed. You cannot give your preference share to someone else. आपको अपने पास ही इसको रखना होगा. You are only going to acquire these shares. Second is, in case of issue of any convertible securities which are convertible or exchangeable on different dates, and if the promoter contribution is by way of equity shares, conversion price being predetermined, such contribution should not be less than the weighted average price of the equity shares arising out of the conversion of such security. So basically आपका जो issue price है, ठीक है, आपका जो इशू प्राइस है उस इशू प्राइस से नीचे नहीं जाना चाहिए. ये जो आपका should not be less than the lower of the weighted average price of the equity share capital arising out of the conversion. तो अलग अलग डेट्स में अगर आप उसको कन्वर्ट कर रहे हो तो उसका जो वेटेड एवरेज प्राइस आप निकालोगे that should not be less than the issue price. Then subject to the provisions of A and B in case of IPO of convertible debt instruments without prior public issue of the securities, the promoters shall bring in at least 25% of the project cost in the form of equity subject to contributing at least 20% of the issue size from their own funds in the form of equity shares. So ये basically आपका जो convertible securities है, this is coming up prior to the public issue. ये जो आपका initial public offer of convertible debts without prior public offer. So I hope you all know that it is not mandatory for a company to list its equity to stay listed. The company can also become a listed company by listing its debt securities. तो यहाँ पर वही बात हो रहा है कि कंपनी का कन्वर्टेबल डेट सिक्योरिटीज जो था वो लिस्ट हो गया, ठीक है, जो कन्वर्टेबल डेट सिक्योरिटीज है वो लिस्ट हो गया है, और अभी तक कंपनी का पब्लिक इशू जो इक्विटी शेयर्स का पब्लिक इशू है वो नहीं हुआ. द कन्वर्टेबल डेट सिक्योरिटीज आर लिस्टेड, द आईपीओ is already there, but the IPO of equity shares is not there. So as far as the equity share is concerned, the company is still unlisted. But for convertible debt instruments, the company is coming up with a public issue, and the promoters are going to contribute 20%. So here they say that promoters are going to contribute at least 20% of the project cost in the form of equity, subject to contributing at least 25% of the issue from their own funds in the form of equity. Yeah, तो project cost का 20% they are going to give it in the form of equity, और जो issue size है उसका 25% subject to issue price. So basically यहाँ पर दो conditions आ गया. See, it is like this. When I say there is a IPO of convertible debt security, so इस केस में क्या होगा? Plus here I say no IPO of equity. This is the situation. ऐसे केस में what should be the minimum promoter contribution? So the minimum promoter contribution. So if you remember, object of issue will be given to you. So there is going to be a project where this amount is getting invested. Now project ka 20%. See, at least 20% of the project cost. This is going to be in the form of equity only. जिस प्रोजेक्ट में ये कन्वर्टेबल डेट का पैसा आप लगाने वाले हो, उस प्रोजेक्ट के अंदर 20% इक्विटी फंडिंग किसका होगा? प्रमोटर का होगा. एंड आगे क्या बताए? सब्जेक्ट टू कंट्रीब्यूटिंग एट लीस्ट 25%. सो इसके साथ में आपके पास एक और कंट्रीब्यूशन मतलब कंडीशन आ गया, एंड 25% ऑफ द इशू साइज in equity. So both needs to be complied. So इसका ये मतलब नहीं 45, इसका ये मतलब नहीं 45. So let's say if this comes up to let's say 400 and this comes up to let's say 500, what is going to be the promoter contribution in the form of equity in this particular project? It is going to be 500. तो आप ऐसे भी बोल सकते हो whichever is, I won't even say हाँ, whichever is more आप बोल सकते हो यहाँ पे, whichever is more. ओके ये पॉइंट क्लियर हुआ? ये वाला पॉइंट क्लियर हुआ? जस्ट रीड दिस, थोड़ा सा हैपहैजर्ड है ये. नाउ जस्ट सी, इन केस ऑफ इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफर ऑफ कन्वर्टेबल डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स विदाउट prior issue of the equity shares, the promoters shall bring in a contribution of at least 20% of the project cost. Okay, 20% of the project cost. So 20% of the project cost in the form of equity, subject to contribution. So there is another condition, 25% of the issue size. So 25% of the issue size. So this has to be complied with. Okay, so this is the most updated. This is the most updated one. So in module, if both of them are given 20%, sorry, I'm sorry, here also it is 20%. I'm sorry, here also it is 20%. My bad. So 20%. So in both the case it is 20%, but let's say if this comes out to 400, this comes out to 500, then in that case ये 500 आपके लिए यहाँ पे लिमिट बन जाएगा फॉर द प्रमोटर contribution. Okay. Then it says that provided that if the project is to be implemented in stages, the promoter contribution can also come in the multiple stages. It's also fine. Okay. So there is no problem. So this is what was there for the promoter contribution, the amount. Then they say the promoter contribution has to be received at least 1 day प्रायर टू द ओपनिंग ऑफ इशू. आपका पब्लिक इशू आ रहा है, उससे एक दिन पहले प्रमोटर कंट्रीब्यूशन जो होगा वो फुल फ्लेजेड आपको मिल जाना चाहिए. एंड देन इन केस ऑफ प्रमोटर हैव टू सब्सक्राइब टू इक्विटी शेयर्स और कन्वर्टेबल सिक्योरिटीज टुवर्ड्स मिनिमम प्रमोटर कंट्रीब्यूशन, द अमाउंट ऑफ प्रमोटर कंट्रीब्यूशन शैल बी केप्ट इन द एस्क्रो अकाउंट. सो ये एक दिन पहले जो आपको मिल रहा है, दिस हैज टू बी केप्ट इन द escrow account which will be held with the open with the scheduled commercial bank, and then it will be released to the issuer company along with the release of the issue proceeds. And provided where the promoter contribution is already brought in and it is already utilized, the issuer shall give the cash flow statement disclosing the use of the funds in the offered document. And provided that where the minimum promoter contribution is more than 100 crore, okay, and the IPO is for partly paid shares, the promoter shall bring in at least 100 crore before the opening of the issue, and the remaining amount may be brought in on pro rata basis before the calls are made to the public. So the pre-issue shares should be fully paid up. However, in the IPO, the shares can be for partly paid up. It can be possible that the company is making a public issue of a partly paid up share. So in that case, the promoter contribution, if the minimum promoter contribution is more than 100 crore, then minimum 100 crore promoter has to pump in into the company, and then the balance amount can be called in when the future calls are made. Technically, this proviso does not have any practical use because no one comes with this multiple call system. Now everything is ASBA, so the entire issue price is blocked and the entire issue price is received. However, this has been given. Now you have section regulation 15 which says that. So regulation 14 said 14.1 said what is going to be the minimum promoter contribution. 14.2 specified that what securities can be brought in by way of promoter contribution. Now you have regulation 15, and the regulation 15 clearly states that there are certain securities which will be ineligible for the promoter contribution. By the way, promoter contribution question is relevant for your exam. So they say that the promoter contribution will be ineligible. The securities will be ineligible if the specified securities acquired during the preceding 3 years. So the shares which the promoters are holding as on the date of public issue or when the DRHP is being filed, that day the shares which they are holding, these shares were acquired in the last 3 years, and these shares were acquired for a consideration other than cash. In that case, again it is not allowed. Or let's say the bonus issue was made, and the bonus issue was made out of the revaluation reserves or unrealized profit from the issuer, or the bonus was made against the equity shares which are ineligible for the promoter contribution. So let's say you acquired shares for consideration other than cash, on that you have received the bonus. So technically both the shares are ineligible, right? So in that case you are not allowed. Then specified securities acquired by the promoter and alternate investment fund, foreign venture capital investor, scheduled commercial bank, PFI, insurance company. Now when we are talking about ineligible promoter contribution, only promoters should be there. Why they have included AIF, foreign venture capital fund? Why all these are included? It's because even they are eligible to fill the gap of that 20% of minimum promoter contribution. So that's the reason they say that the restriction also applies to them. Correct, because they can also help. So here if you see the promoters, AIF, foreign venture capital fund, scheduled commercial bank, PFIs, and insurance company, if they acquired the shares during the preceding 1 year, okay, at a price which is lower than the price of the public issue, तो आपने पब्लिक इशू के प्राइस से कम प्राइस में शेयर्स को अक्वायर किया, सो अगेन यू आर not eligible to come up, that will not be counted in the promoter contribution or for the minimum promoter contribution. Then this clause shall not apply if the promoters and the AIF pay to the issuer the price. So here if you see, if they acquired the shares for a price lesser than the issue price, so the issue price is 100, they acquired it for 70. Now the only problem for SEBI, और the SEBI has only problem that आपने 30 रुपया सस्ता दिया, यहाँ पे शेयर्स को सस्ता लिया, पब्लिक को 100 का दे रहे हो, खुद 70 का लिया, not allowed. So the issuer, basically the promoter or the AIF, right, they are ready to pay the difference, then there is no problem. And also this will not apply if the shares were acquired by way of a scheme. So when the shares were acquired by way of scheme, at that point of time the valuation was 70 and today the issue price is coming at 100, then there is again no problem. But this should be by way of the scheme only. So if the shares are acquired under the scheme of section 230 to 234, which is approved by the tribunal or by the central government, then in that case there is going to be no problem. However, that 1 year time period should be still there. Now अगर आप यहाँ पे एक चीज देखो, if tribunal comes into the picture, then there is no problem because we know that a real valuation has been done. Okay, if they are ready to pay the difference, the only agitation SEBI had that how can you acquire the shares at a lesser price and offer the shares in the public issue at a higher price to the public. So pay that difference, we don't have a problem. Here they said that, if you are acquiring the shares for a consideration other than cash. Okay, now in this particular case, the scenario is, what is the basis of valuation, right? All those things are there. So again, the basis of valuation will be checked by the tribunal or by the central government, then there is again no problem, right? And in case of a IP of a government company, then again this condition will not be applicable, that even if they have acquired for a lesser price, there will be no issue. Then the specified securities allotted to the promoters or the AIF during the preceding 1 year is less than the issue price against which the funds bought in. So the same thing that I mentioned to you, right? They have purchased it for less than the issue price. Then the specified securities allotted to the promoter and it existed. So this you can ignore. But ultimately just remember, the promoters cannot acquire the shares less than the issue price. Then specified securities which are pledged with any creditor. So if the promoter contribution is pledged with the creditor, please don't count those shares as the promoter contribution, because uh, ultimately there is always a risk that in case you default, the creditor may sell the shares. So indirectly what SEBI does not want, indirectly that can happen, that I am the promoter of the company, I give my shares to Sohail and Sohail is my creditor. Sohail says that, okay, sir, if you default, I am going to sell these shares in the market. And after the public issue, I actually default. After the public issue, I actually default and Sohail is selling the shares. Now there is a issue because when the public issue came, I showed these shares as a promoter contribution in which there is a minimum lock-in period. But still these shares are getting sold. Now these shares are sold not by me, these shares are sold by the creditor. Now you cannot stop the creditor that please don't sell these shares, because Sohail would say, how am I blocked in this particular case, or how am I into the picture? I had given some loan to Anand, he had to repay that money, he had pledged these shares with me. If he is not repaying, I am very well in the right to sell these shares. Please keep your ICDR regulations only with the issuer. It is not applicable on me. So that's the reason such situations should not arise. So we have this, that the specified securities are pledged with any creditor, right? Then it is all fine. So just remember that the promoter contribution and the securities which are ineligible. Now we have the provisions for the lock-in period and all. So in case of lock-in period, so just see the minimum promoter contribution. This will be locked in for a period of 3 years. Just remember this. the minimum promoter contribution, this would be locked in for 3 years, and the amount which is being invested in excess of the minimum promoter contribution, this will be locked in for 1 year. So from regulation 16, just remember these 2 points, right? And then you have regulation 17, which says that the entire pre-issue capital which is held by the person other than the promoter. So just remember, in this case, this is the promoter contribution, this 40 is also the promoter contribution. So here there will be a lock-in for 3 years. But what about this? They will have a lock-in for 1 year. One is this. In this particular case, the minimum promoter contribution was 100. Okay. But the promoters have contributed 150. So 100 will have a lock-in period of 3 years and 50 will have a lock-in period of 1 year. Okay. Is this clear? What we just discussed. So एक बार आप फिर से इसको देख लो. Just see. The minimum promoter contribution 3 years, in excess of the minimum promoter contribution 1 year. So this is aligned with this. So it is not just with the promoters, but other people also, they will have a lock-in period of 1 year. Okay. Then there are some exceptions to this. इसमें क्या है? When the shares are allotted to the employees of the company pursuant to the ESOP or ESPS, in that case, this is prior to the IPO, then in that case there is no problem, they can sell the shares even within 1 year, provided the issuer has given a full disclosure with respect to such options or the schemes. Now इसमें अगर आप देखो, promoters को, इनको अगर shares एम्प्लॉयज वगैरह को दिया जाता है तो उसमें वैसे भी लॉक इन रेस्ट्रिक्शंस आ जाते हैं, ईसॉप एंड ऑल में वैसे भी लॉक इन रेस्ट्रिक्शंस रहता है. सो इट इज स्टिल fine. However, after giving disclosures, they may sell the shares. Then equity shares which is held by an ESOP trust. Now this is by the ESOP trust. So not earlier it was employees, now it is by the trust. So in that case, again they can sell these shares and they can give the benefit to the employees. So there is again no problem, right? And in case the shares are held by the venture capital fund or alternate investment fund or foreign venture capital investors, so again these restrictions will not apply. However, such equity shares will be locked in at least for 1 year from the date of purchase. So basically pre-issue purchase can be sold after the issue even within 1 year, but the minimum holding period should be 1 year. अब आप इसमें difference समझ पा रहे हो? Here they are not talking about minimum 1 year holding period from the date of the company going public. It is 1 year from the date of purchase. तो आपने यहाँ पे सिक्योरिटीज को परचेज किया, इधर कंपनी का आ गया आईपीओ और अब आप यहाँ से सेल करना चाहते हो. अभी तक जो हमने देखा था उसमें सब जगह ये 12 मंथ्स था, ये 1 year था, यहाँ पे ये 1 year है. सो दिस इज क्लॉज सी, 1 year फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ एक्विजिशन. ओके. और बाकी जगह ये सब था, यहां से 1 year था. इज दिस क्लियर? इज दिस पार्ट क्लियर?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then this is fine. Then lock-in period shall not apply in respect of specified securities lent to the stabilizing agent. So green shoe option आपने देखा. अब ग्रीन शू ऑप्शन में आपने स्टेबलाइजिंग एजेंट को शेयर्स दे दिया. अब एक बात बताओ, उसको आप बोलते हो नो देयर इज अ लॉक इन पीरियड ऑफ 1 year. ग्रीन शू ऑप्शन करेगा कैसे वो? करेक्ट. सो अगेन यू हैव दिस एक्सेप्शन. एंड देन लॉक इन फॉर द पार्टली पेड अप शेयर. सो यहाँ पे पार्टली पेड अप शेयर्स के लिए क्या बताए? इफ द स्पेसिफाइड सिक्योरिटीज which are subject to lock-in are partly paid up, the amount called up is less than the amount called up on the specified securities issued to public, the lock-in period shall end only after the expiry of 3 years after the specified securities have become pari passu with the specified securities issued to the public. Now, what does this mean? Share of face value 10 rupees called up 7. You are making a public issue of 10. The issue here you are making a partly paid up share, let's say of 9 rupees. Now, this lock in period will be there once you pay the 2 rupees, then it becomes pari passu with this share, and then the lock in period is going to end. So just see, the lock in shall end only after the expiry of 3 years after they have become the pari passu. So in case of this, again, technically not very relevant, you can ignore this part, but what was relevant was the before part. Also, when the shares are locked in, okay, so here you have to get into touch with the depository, and these depositories are going to inscribe that these shares are locked in. It will be recorded by the depository that these shares are locked in, and in that case you will not be allowed to give these shares as the, basically you cannot pledge these shares, you cannot sell these shares because these are marked as locked in. So this is the mandatory requirement which has to be put in. Now pledge of the specified securities. So अगर आपके जो shares है उसको आपने pledge करवा दिया, you don't want to sell those shares, but can you pledge those shares? So here they are saying that specified securities but not the SR equity which are held by the promoters and which are locked in can be pledged. It may be pledged as a collateral security for the loan which is granted by the scheduled commercial bank or a PFI, right, or a systematically important NBFC or a housing finance company, subject to what is that? That if the specified securities are locked in, the loan has been granted to the issuer or the subsidiary company for financing one or more projects which is the objects of the issue. Okay, remember वो 75% stated means से आपको finance arrange करना होगा. So उसके लिए आप बैंक के पास गए, आपने लोन लिया, the bank is saying but you'll have to pledge the promoter contribution. Now in that scenario they can do that, and also the pledge of the specified security is one of the terms of the sanctioning of the loan. So suo moto you cannot go and say please आप ये share ले लो, ठीक है? It should be part of the clause of the agreement, and because of that you are giving these shares. And if the specified securities are locked in clause B, so this is that 3 years wala and this is that 1 year wala over and above, the pledge of the security is again one of the terms. So here it is not necessary that the money should be utilized for the same project, it may be utilized for some other project also. Then again, the provided that the lock-in shall continue pursuant to the invocation of the pledge also. So remember the example that I had given. Sohail will also not be allowed to sell the shares. Sohail को भी बोला जाएगा बॉस आप ये shares नहीं बेचते, आपको ये share अपने पास ही रखना होगा. Even आपने इसको invoke कर लिया because these are the shares which are locked in. अब ध्यान रखना ये प्री इशू वाले लॉक्ड इन शेयर्स नहीं है, ये प्लेज वाले शेयर्स नहीं है. दिस इज आफ्टर द पब्लिक इशू हैज हैपेंड एंड नाउ आई वांट टू प्लेज, बिकॉज प्री इशू शेयर्स आर नॉट अलाउड ओनली. यहाँ पे एक कंफ्यूजन आता है कई बार स्टूडेंट्स को, तो आप ध्यान रखना हमने इससे पहले जो पढ़ा था that is securities which are ineligible for promoter contribution. So basically before the public issue if my shares are already pledged then there is ineligibility that cannot be counted for the minimum promoter contribution. This one is the shares are getting pledged after the public issue and therefore these conditions would flow. Then you have section regulation 22. So again they say that the promoter contribution, okay, whatever is the promoter contribution which is into the lock-in, this can be transferred to one promoter can transfer to the other promoter, there is no problem, okay, but ultimately it has to be part of the promoter contribution. You cannot sell it to a non-promoter. So either, so subject to the provisions of the takeover regulations, the specified securities which are held by the promoter and which are locked in, this may be transferred to another promoter or any person of the promoter group or even to a new promoter. So if any person is coming as a promoter of the company, so आप उसको भी transfer कर सकते हो. So inter-se transfer during the lock-in is still allowed. Pledging of shares during the lock-in is still allowed, but selling these shares during the lock-in period, this will not be allowed. आप बताओ, is this clear? If this is clear, then we are good for the day. And next lecture, we will start from the appointment of the intermediaries. So possibly we'll start with the regulation 23 and the other provisions which are there. हम आगे ड्राफ्ट ऑफर डॉक्यूमेंट एंड इशू प्रोसेस इन सबको हम वहां पर कवर करेंगे. सो आप मुझे बताओ, ये क्लियर हुआ आप लोगों को? क्या ये आप लोगों को क्लियर हुआ?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just brush up. See, one thing I would strongly recommend, and I would also request for this, that please जो भी lectures हो रहे हैं उसको साथ साथ में आप cover करते जाओ. Like today we have covered the promoter contribution and all. Just read the promoter contribution. I'm not saying watch the video again or make notes immediately or something, but at least read whatever we have covered. I am not taking too many topics in one particular day because of this reason, that initial stage पे I don't want to rush, and also बाद में भी rush नहीं करूँगा, don't worry. I've used the word initial, but what I meant is initially I don't want you to till the time you don't get used to of these concepts and all, जब तक आप ये बोलते हैं ना निटिकटीज को जब तक आप नहीं समझ जाते तब तक मैं स्लो वहां पे जाता हूँ ताकि आप लोग वो पेस पिक कर सको. एंड सेकेंडली यू कैन ऑल्सो रिवाइज इट ऑन अ डे टू डे बेसिस. सो प्लीज रिवाइज जितना हमने यहाँ पे कवर किया है. एंड टुमारो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड with regulation 23 and the onwards provision. And in case you have any doubt from the topics that we have covered today and in the previous lecture, feel free to ask me tomorrow. Okay, take care. Bye bye.